There is a great deal of flexibility and variety in this method of musical composition because there are four possible forms of the row or the series. Now the nice thing about these possible forms of the row or the series is that all of them are identified by English names, and they are defined by concepts that we use every day. So there's nothing exotic at all about them. Indeed, in order to recall them, all you have to do is to exercise your mind just a teeny tiny bit. Basically, when you take a look at the name of each of these forms, you can then discern its order and its position. It's just that simple. So keep track of these details in a table that you copy into your notes. Write down the name, the order, and the position for each of the four possible forms of the series or the row. The first form of the row, the one chosen by the composer, is the original form. And if you take a look at the word original, you see the word origin in it. And an origin is the starting point of something. So the original form of the row or the series is the one that was invented by the composer. Now the original form of the row or the series is understood to be in the very order that the composer chose it. That is, it has its notes numbered as 1 through 12. That is, it goes forward through the series. And the melody, the tone or the series, is presumed to be upright. So this version of the row or the series is presumed to be upright and forward. The next form of the row or the series is called retrograde. And if you take a look at the word retrograde, you see a couple familiar words in it. Grade refers to a step. It comes from the Latin word gradus, and you remember when you were in grade school, you went through the grades. It was one step of your education. And retro is a prefix that we hear tossed around today as an actual word, as an adjective. It means back. So taken together, retrograde means step backwards. And in fact, this tells us a great deal about the order and the position of the notes in this melody, or this form of the row or the series. Basically, the notes are presented backwards. Rather than being presented 1 through 12, as in the original, they're presented from 12 through 1. So the last note becomes the first note, the second to the last note becomes the second note, etc. Retrograde, stepping backward, presenting the melody backward. The melody remains upright during this process, so in terms of position, it's both upright and backward. Another form of the row is inversion, and you don't have to think about this very long, do you? You know that to invert something means to turn it upside down, and in fact, that's exactly what happens with this form of the row or the series. When the row or the series is inverted or presented in inversion, the order of its notes remains unchanged. They are presented in ascending sequence from 1 through 12, just as they were in the original. But they are turned upside down. They are inverted, so this form of the melody is upside down and forward. The final form of the row is called retrograde inversion, and as you can clearly see, it is a combination of the retrograde form and the inverted form. So if you simply apply these two processes to it, presenting it backwards and presenting it upside down, you know exactly what this form is all about. Since the word retrograde, to step backwards, is present in retrograde inversion, the order is going to be backwards. Rather than 1 through 12, it is 12 through 1. And since retrograde inversion mentions inversion or turning something upside down, that is exactly the position in which you find it. So retrograde inversion is therefore both upside down and backwards. Make sure that you master all four forms of the row, as well as all of the concepts that I presented to you in terms of serialism, because approximately 20% of the tests that you will take on this unit comes from knowing these things. So it will be well worth your while to go through them carefully and to master them. 20%, that's 2 full letter grades.